So I'm going to show you how to do a few restorative poses. And restorative yoga is really good if you're feeling quite stressed and you're in that fight or flight state where your body's producing a lot of adrenaline. Restorative poses help to bring us down into this rest and digest state of the nervous system. So one thing to consider with restorative practice is we tend to spend a bit longer in these poses than we would in normal yoga poses. So make sure you're nice and warm, maybe put on an extra jumper and a pair of socks, because you will find when you spend a little bit of time in a restorative pose, your body temperature will start to drop a little bit because you're not moving. So make sure you're nice and warm. The first pose I was going to show you was side lying. And when we lie on our side, that's a really good equalizer for the nervous system. So if we're feeling a bit anxious, it calms us down. If we're feeling really exhausted, it revives us. So what you're going to need for lying on your side is I'm using a block and a blanket under my head and a bolster. So when you come down to your down to your lift, you want it to be the right height so that your head is neither dropping down or overlifting. So you want your neck to be in line with your spine. And then you're going to place your bolster. If you don't have your own bolster, you could wrap a pillow in a blanket to make your own. We're going to pop it here. We're going to come and lie on our side with our shoulder on the floor. And then we're supported by the bolster. And you can fiddle around until you get really comfortable. Got the knees bent. You're going to be bringing your hand onto the top of the hand below, and there's a couple of movements we can do before we come into a more still position. One thing we can do is inhaling and raising the arm and turning our head up towards the ceiling, just rolling back as far as is comfortable. And then bringing that arm back to the front. So what we do is we raise that arm on an inhalation and then bring the arm back on an exhalation. And just get into a little bit of a rhythm with your breath. And something that can be quite nice is to have the toes of the top leg on the floor. And then as you bring that arm up, you're going to feel a little tug on the lower body, and you can, keeping the toes on the floor, you can lift that top knee to come back a little bit further into your spiral. And then bring yourself back. And then another thing we can do is to raise your arm. Bring your arm over your head and really reaching into the fingertips. You could even bring your hand to rest on a low stool or some part of a chair over your head. And this just creates a little bit of space around the ribs. You can breathe up into this top lung. So you can either do this as a flowing movement coming in and out, or bring your hand to a lift. And then after having explored those movements, you can bring your hand to rest either on your side or down on the bolster next to you. And then with restorative poses, it's useful to remain in the pose for about 7 minutes minimum, really, just to allow the nervous system to settle. And you may lie here for a little while feeling that there's nothing much going to happen. And then you may find that at some point you feel that release, you feel that sense of dropping into the sensation of side lying. So you'll be here for your 7 minutes and then rolling yourself forward to bring yourself up. And then you'll need to come in on the other side. So you would be shifting your legs around, turning the other way, and bringing the other shoulder down to the floor. So that's the first pose. The second one is to have a bolster under the front of our body. So having a bit of pressure on the front of the body has been shown to stimulate this rest and digest state of the nervous system, and it also stimulates all of the organs, kind of good organ function as well. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our bolster this way, and we're going to be having the same lift under our head. Now, when we lie on our front, we've got this natural inner curve of the lumbar spine, and sometimes when we lie on our front, that deepens that lumbar curve, and we can feel a little bit of discomfort in the lower back. So in order to counteract that, you're going to be placing some folded blankets or some folded towels across the middle of your bolster, so that your belly is just a little bit higher than your tailbone. So the tailbone is right at the base of the spine, and your tummy's lifted a little bit, and that just maintains that comfort through the lower back. So I'm coming in with my knees fairly wide, and I'm coming onto my bolster, and I'm going to rest with my my mind's gone blank. Breastbone, resting on the bolster, and then bringing my head to my blocks. And so this is the position. So we'd remain here for 7 to 10 minutes. Probably not a great idea to eat a lot of food before coming into this posture. And what you may find after spending a little bit of time in this position, that you feel you want to lessen the amount of lift under your head. So you can play around with that as you feel the back of the neck starts to release. Or it may be fine as it is, but make any adjustments you need to be comfortable. And if at any point you really don't feel comfortable, feel free to bring yourself out. Then to bring ourselves up, we're going to bring our hands to the floor. We're going to come back. My knees are fairly wide, so I'm going to come back and sit on my heels and then fold forward into child pose, just to rest my forehead on the bolster. And just spend a few moments here before bringing myself up. And then the third position I was going to show you today is Viparita Karani. So this is a traditional yoga pose. And what we're going to be doing is bringing our bolster over towards the wall. And we're going to have a little space between the bolster and the wall. I'm using the kind of width from my thumb to my finger. And we're finding that space there. And the reason we have that space is when we lie with our legs up the wall, the bolster goes into this little area of our lumbar spine, this little curve of our lumbar spine. And it's almost as if the tailbone is dropping off the edge of the bolster, so our bottom is nice and close to the wall. So to bring yourself up, you're going to sit close to the wall on your bolster, and then you're going to be swinging your legs up. And if that bolster isn't feeling super comfortable, you can press into the soles of the feet and just fiddle around to bring yourself in. And as you can see, that bolster's resting in my lumbar curve, and the tailbone's kind of curving over the edge. I've sometimes heard this described as almost as if it's like a waterfall. You've got water coming down off of your feet, and it's pooling here in your belly area. And you can bring your arms out to the side or over your head, wherever they're comfortable. And again, you spend about 10 minutes in this posture, or longer if you prefer. So this is a really nice position, particularly if you spent a lot of time standing up. There may be a bit of water retention in your legs, so that starts to drain away when we're in this position. And it's also really great just to stimulate the circulation of the blood into the heart and into the head. It's a very reviving position to be in. And to bring yourself out of here, you'll be bending your knees, bringing the soles of the feet to the floor, pressing into the wall, and then sliding your bolster out of the way. And then just spending a little bit of time with your bottom on the floor, just allowing your pelvis to settle. And then once you've felt that pelvis is settled, just rolling onto your side and bringing yourself up. So Viparita Karani, legs up the wall, isn't suitable for everyone, because if you have got glaucoma or high blood pressure, then you would be better to do a more moderate version of this pose. So what you would need is a chair. And then you can place a folded blanket in front of your chair. And again, you've got a bit of space between your chair legs and your blanket. And then you're going to sit at the end of your blanket and swing your legs up onto the chair seat. Now, when people are lying on their backs, sometimes people find that their chin's a little bit lifted. So if you find your chin is lifting, you may benefit from a little lift under the head, maybe a folded blanket, or towel, just to bring the chin in towards the chest and get a bit of length through the back of the neck. So this is a good alternative to the full posture of legs up the wall. And then to bring yourself out, you bring the feet to the chair and you can roll onto your side. Maybe spend a moment or two on your side before bringing yourself up. So with any of these postures, we don't want to be jumping out of them. We want to take our time coming in and coming out.